Hey, welcome to the Runaways Podcast. My name is Cody. This week, we're going to be talking about deck building, and I think there's already stuff in it that we don't agree with when you're reviewing what we're going to talk about today. But joining me, as always, we have all four of us here. I'll start off with Lucas. Lucas won one calling, and now he has pierced both of his ears. I don't know what that says about winning callings, but how's your week been?
Well, my week's been okay. It says absolutely nothing about winning callings because that was months ago. No, but it's been all right. I mean, I've just been kind of relaxing for the holidays. I think I may have played more games of Flesh and Blood in the last week than I've ever played in a week-long span of just bad decks and trying to make bad decks playable and being like, Cody, trust me, this is the way to make the bad deck playable, and then the bad deck's not playable. And then that's kind of been how it's been going for me. But it's been fun. I've been playing Verdance. I've been playing Vincent. I've been playing New. I've been playing a bunch of stuff. And it's been nice to just kind of grind games. It's not something I normally do. It's not usually doesn't fit into my time situation. And I also think that there's more efficient ways to get better. But man, is it fun. I really, I don't know. Something about playing just 100 games in a row on a day feels pretty rewarding.
That is a lot of games. I have seen all of your millions of deck lists you have made into our
I have 5 minutes.
Every day I go in there and there's just so many decks added. Noah, you're back. You've joined us again. Well, how has your week been? Well, you don't have any pierced ears for me to comment on or anything. Yeah. So
dude, honestly, I'm getting motivated. I want to get mine redone. You might see me with them at some point in 2025.
But you have to win a calling first.
Yeah. Okay, I'll promise this. If I win a calling, I'll get them done again. And I just have to make sure I get even bigger studs than Lucas. I got to flex on him.
Yeah, well, exactly. And then I'll win another calling and I'll get them redone.
Just get even bigger. Eventually we're going to re-rock and gauge.
Just start gauging by the time we keep winning callings.
Nice. If I win Worlds, I got to get the nose bull ring.
It's one piercing every time you win.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, Dan, you and I never have to worry about getting any piercings. So how's your week been?
That was a nice week. I played Armory on Saturday, which I don't always get to do. And the last round I played against a Phi. And every time he picked up his Phoenix Flame, I was like, man, I miss doing that. So on Monday I played Phi. And it went not that good. But I kind of enjoyed it. I was playing Redline, so you don't really play the game. You just say no block. And then you play all your cards. And then you say no block. So you play all your cards. But it was nice to pick up Phoenix Flames again.
Yeah, I brought Kasai to my locals this past week. It also did not go well. So I was like, oh, Warrior's still bad. I can't even make it work at a local level.
Well,
put this
I have news for you guys. There's actually a set coming out in just a few months that features not only a Draconic Ninja, but also a Warrior.
A few months?
When does it come out?
It's coming out
a couple of weeks.
Whoa, that's awesome. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Dude, I've been in the dungeon. I've just been because I'm in the Midwest, so we have the storm. So I've been literally just a cryptid in my room playing Talishar and eating Pop-Tarts for the last 3 days. So I didn't even know. The outside world is so foreign to me at this point.
Drinking 15 Dr. Peppers.
At least.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the topic. We're going to talk about maybe broadly some deck building ideas or thoughts. But I really thought of this topic when I was actually playing Marvel Rivals. I was watching a video on some of the roles and what the roles play. And I've been playing DPS, and usually you think DPS, I just kill things. That's what your job is. And I watched this video and they said the actual goal of the DPS player is to protect the entire group from being attacked on the various angles that aren't being blocked by the tanks. And that's how you should approach the matchup. And I thought this was pretty interesting because it kind of applies to one of the ways I look at deck building, or I think a lot of people look at deck building, which is what is the actual goal of the deck, not just what do the cards in the deck do, or how does the deck play. And I think for an example of this I talk about is Enigma. The goal of playing the Enigma deck is to just untap with a ward at the end of your next turn that you can swing with. You do that, you win the game. The whole goal of the deck is it just wants to untap at one point with a ward. Even this applies to almost every matchup. Even the mirror. The mirror is just people clearing the board back and forth every single round until someone can't, and then the game's over. But that's not necessarily what the cards in the deck do. They have 2 for 6s and they have a bunch of other things that they're playing. But the actual goal is just untap one time, essentially. And this, it can be Zen. Zen's whole goal in some matchups is just make a Zen state token. Like that's the goal of the deck. Or resolve Cosmic Awakening could be a whole goal. And I think this applies down various decks. Lucas, I don't think agrees 100% on this, as he told me, but I think it's an interesting way to look at a deck, not just like, what does the deck do? Oh, it's an aggro deck, it attacks, it plays 4-card hands, but what is like the underlying goal of what the deck is actually trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with the statement by itself. I think that it is important to understand your goal as a deck and like what your deck does kind of better than everything else and what you're trying to achieve. But I usually prefer to approach deck building slightly differently. I hyperfixate on like the multiple specific interactions that I want to play towards often. It just depends on the deck. When it was first said to me, it seemed like it was kind of a narrow, like this is what you should build your deck around. And so I agree with the concept. I'm just not sure that that's where I should be focusing all of my deck building power.
Well, I give you a more controversial example. New's entire goal is to force you to block when you can't afford to block. That's the whole goal of the deck. Like, if you could summarize the deck down, that's all it's trying to do. But you have to take that concept and then apply it to deck building. And that's kind of where I think in my mind, that's where I like to start when I look at decks. It's like, what is the actual goal of what I'm trying to accomplish? Even if it's something that I don't think most people would apply to what New's actual goal is or how the deck plays.
And I think you can kind of expand that to just matchups, right? It's not just deck building. But like I was just talking to Dan about this, where like we have like the Yarl deck that we just published has different ways to win a bunch of different matchups, because in some matchups your goal is to pitch 2 cards to Sledge every turn until you see your second cycle and combine your powerful plays with each other. And then sometimes the goal is block. So I think it's kind of...
Surely those are just the same thing. Like, you can't swing Sledge off 4 cards. So you're still blocking when you're doing the Sledge.
No, I mean, in some matchups, like your game plan is like only blocking. Like let's say you're just trying to straight fatigue a deck. Like that might be your strategy. Whereas like into like the mirror, you are playing efficiently and using Sledge or whatever to like potentially set up powerful plays when they don't line up super easily with each other.
Well, then the goal is just to fatigue. It's to run your
opponent. If you're talking about Sledge and blocking, the goal is just fatigue regardless. So it's actually just the same goal.
No. It's different though. Like I'm not fatiguing the Guardian Mirror. Also though, regardless, all I'm trying to say is that different. Like I would prefer to approach it from a matchup by matchup perspective, not just building a whole deck. I think that's an important distinction. Because like then in other matchups, your goal is just to kill them, right? Like you're just like throwing every attack you can and trying to end the game.
I don't think your goal is always to kill them.
Yeah, like
it's just like
you have to reduce.
That's
your
every deck's overall goal.
Sure.
It's lost on the youngins.
Yeah, so I think that I've been quiet, but I think the Viscerai deck is like the actual perfect example of this, where my goal is very clear. I want to devalue my opponent's agency. So this comes in multiple forms. If I'm attacking you with 9+ rune chance and your hand is all reds, you don't really have a choice of preventing the damage. You just like have to take the damage, and you also potentially can't convert your hand because it's all reds. And then the same thing for opponents like Enigma, where I'm devaluing your ward. You can have a Miragai and a 10k, and those are just worth 1 because I have so many rune chance. I'm also devaluing decks that are playing defense reaction cards, where I'm not attacking on some turns, so I like clog their hand with D-reacts. So essentially the whole goal of the Viscerai deck is just to make the opponent unable to play their turn cycles how they want to, and I'm always the one in control. So it's actually kind of like close to New, where New is being proactive and like disrupting their hand to enact that game plan of not letting them do what they want. Whereas Viscerai is doing that via damage stacking, where I'm putting damage on the table that you're guaranteed going to take at some point and not letting you use your hand how you want to.
Okay, the youngin got it. Dan, if you want to say something, you can go first.
Okay.
I mean, I can just say that I also get it. Like for Zen, like sometimes the goal is to Zen stay, right? But overall, the goal is to resolve chase the tail lines as many times as possible, right? Like if you resolve 3 chase lines, you win every matchup. So like it's built around doing that. That's why we're playing the the 1 for 4 that
Flex
not
clause.
everyone loves, Flex Clause, because it helps you resolve Chase the Tail. Or like Chain back in the days, like the first time your opponent blocks 4 cards, that's the goal. You get your opponent to block the whole hand, you won
Yep.
the game because they never stop. Just run them over.
Yeah, I would say the Yarl deck's goal is to push whatever matchup you're in to a favorable endgame. I think that's like a really big deal with the deck. In some matchups, that's kill all your equipment and then play a Winter's Bite and Channel Lake and throw Summit every turn until you win. In some matchups, that is make sure that your second cycle, you make sure that you resolve every CNC pummel, and you can use like whether it's Sledge or Simple or whatever it is, you can use it to get those cards into there. And make sure that you're resolving your cards in a neat and orderly fashion.
Yeah, I think I said this before with CYB Enigma. My goal was to play my bottom 20 cards of my deck against your bottom 20 cards of your deck every game. That's the only state I wanted to get the game into. And that then narrows down into I want to basically untap with Maragai is like the actual goal. And the way to get there is to play bottom 20 against bottom 20, right? So yeah, I think it's interesting, like Noah, to hear like your take on you want to devalue their agency. Because I think if you sat down with someone to build a deck and you said, okay, I want you to build me a deck that devalues my opponent's agency, and then like sent them off into the land. But I think it's actually really interesting to like actually have these type of goals when you sit down to look at a deck or look at all of the heroes that exist. And you're like, okay, well, people are playing a lot of D-reacts and people are not playing that many blues and they're playing this. So how can I look at a way to devalue their agency in these cases? Okay, I can do it with this deck. Let's see if I can make a deck that way. Like going from that way into building the deck versus just, I want to build a new deck or I want to build a Phi deck. Like you could definitely do that. That's fine. But looking at it in an abstract way and then narrowing down that vision into a single purpose, I think creates some of the best decks. And I think Icelander before, like when Bulllander became a thing, is a good example of this. Cause like the goal of the Icelander deck was to stop your opponent from hitting you so that you could resolve your things. I can get deeper with like the actual goal, but one of the ways to do that was to throw an 8 at their face, because throwing the 8 wasn't the point. It's like, I'm not trying to deal damage here. I'm just like, I'm either going to get you down to a state where I have an extra turn for my boots, which is the actual goal, is to get 1 extra turn over your opponent. And you did that using their boots. But one of the ways to do that was to send an 8 where they either had to give you cards so that your control was better, or take 8 damage, which gets you closer to your boots getting you that extra turn over your opponent.
Yeah, I really like that with Icelander, actually, because I feel like Icelander has like 2 strategies, but they both kind of go towards the same goal. It's like you're either trying to, like you said, like stop hitting you, but really it's just like you want them to block, because once they start blocking, you are able to basically never let them block again or never let them, into the game. But so like you want the game to slow down enough to where you can finish them off. And then into some of the faster matchups, your goal ultimately, like you said, was to just reduce both players' life total at a relatively similar rate, because at the end of the game you have Stormstriders. Yeah. And both of those kind of have similar ways of getting there with similar cards, but they both kind of do.
I think we haven't really seen this much in FAB, but if there's ever a format where one deck is like so much better than the rest, maybe PT, that Shoma one with Azuri, was the closest, where you can also just choose a deck that is targeting the top deck and say like, my goal for deck building this is just to counter one deck. In FAB, it's a bit too diverse, I think, but there could be a world where your deck building is literally just, okay, I know that there's 2 different variants of this top deck, and I can construct my deck to essentially mitigate all they're doing either defensively or proactively. And then that's just like a tournament successful deck.
I mean, you can kind of expand that to look at just like how decks are chosen for certain events. Like we kind of offhand it by just saying like, I played this deck because it's good into this and good into this and good into this. But like, you look at the Zen deck that we just took to Worlds, and it's like what we were looking for at the time. We have this meta of like, we have Runeblades and Enigma, and then we have like a bunch of other okay decks. We just wanted a deck that had a good Enigma matchup and had the unique tools to have an actual edge into the Runeblades. And then basically we just needed something else that had a unique edge into Dash.io. And it turns out that unique edge was just making Zen State tokens into both the Runeblades and Dash.io. Obviously, the Zen lists have kind of evolved now to just be more focused on just playing their own thing. But for that specific event, it was just like we wanted ways to we needed a way to connect the dots, and we found Zen State token, and then it was like, okay, then we just go from there. And at the end of the day, our goal was just we want to make Zen State tokens, and we want to kind of break math by just blocking 1 million damage.
I still think Chase the Gem was the goal.
I agree. As the deck evolves,
I think was Zen State.
Yeah, as you like play the Zen deck against other matchups, that's how it goes. But like that was the original reason why we wanted to play Zen. Was our goal was how do we make a deck that can properly utilize Zen State, and how do we craft game plans around that? Because like all of our game plans, figuring out like how to beat the Rune Blades and the Dios was just like how do we Zen State right? Because we knew it was very powerful and we knew it was broken, but like the whole process was our goal was just figuring out like how do we beat this? Like I remember when Jesse and I played a billion games, it was me against Viserai, and he was just playing normal, like play all your cards every turn because you're Viserai. Of course you do. And like eventually I like keep every game. I'm like, okay, this Zen State wasn't very good. My goal is to maximize my Zen State. And so I would just keep trying to figure out how to maximize that. And then by the end, it felt like it was down, and we had the game plan, and then we did that for the other matchups as well. But I like that a lot.
I ran into this because I've been working on the Vincent deck for our Hero of the Month for the Discord. And my first Viserai list was like the goal was to block 3 cards and play 1 card. Yeah, Vincent. My first list was just block 3 cards, play 1 card. And I was like, this kind of doesn't work well when they just block the 1 card. Like kind of becomes an issue. And then I just changed it. You know what my goal is? My goal is them to give me 4 cards. Like that, I just like I wanted to make a deck where the goal was as soon as they give me all of their cards, I should win the game. And I've developed a new list that I'm working on, which it has that as a goal. It's like, please block my attack that I'm going to send at you so that I can drop my hands, and my hands play in a function where I will probably send 2 Rune Gates at you after that.
Yeah.
Like that is now the goal.
When I was building Vincent, my whole goal, I guess, like, obviously I hadn't articulated it properly in the time, but like, I think what I would approach the hero would be just like, I want to resolve as many Rune Gates as possible. And that's like my goal for the deck, because Rune Gate by itself is super powerful. Your hero ability gives you 1 extra point a turn, and you get to play these overrate attacks for free. So just like, how do we do that as much as possible, as often as possible, and how do we maximize our ability to do that? And that's where, I mean, we landed on a cool list that you have now that I like, combining things from different ideas and different lists. But I feel like that's kind of been getting better and better as I've played the deck more, as like honing in on that goal of just like playing more Rune Gate cards has just been like what I've wanted to do. And I feel like the lists of mine that have focused on other things have not been as good. So I like that. Yeah. I'm coming around on this idea. I like this.
I think for a lot of people, this might be like an inherent way that they build, or maybe some people don't think about it at all. But I think taking maybe like even like a macro of the macro approach on what you're, and trying to really distill down into like a sentence or so, like what is the goal of this deck, and are you actually accomplishing that? I think really helps give an idea to the shape of it.
And it helps you not stray as well, which is a big deal. Like that's how a lot of people like kind of go off the deep end, is they stray from what their goal should be. You know, they put 12 cards in their sideboard for Enigma, and then they realize that they can't beat anything else because they have failed to accomplish the goal that they actually have in their deck.
Yeah. Yep. I think it helps. It's good you bring up sideboarding. I think it helps you when you are sideboarding too, so that when you've built your deck from the ground up with this understanding of what your goals are, you know what cards are important and what cards like don't really matter. Yeah. I keep getting like a lot of questions about like, oh, why do you play this card and not that card? And I'm like, okay, these are just like completely irrelevant cards. That's like, you could play 19 cards in this slot. It changes your win rate by like 0.2%. Yeah. Because they're not like part of the actual core, just like some fringe sideboard card that has replacement level effects. Whereas other cards are like uncuttable, super core, because those are like a key part of the game plan.
Well, and that's why sideboarding is like so important in this game, right? Compared to other games. Like you look at some Enigma decks have Waxing Spectre in every matchup, and some of them have it in 2 matchups. And it's just like how you build the deck is fundamentally different based on like what you know is in what role.
Yeah, Ninth Blade is another similar card, right? Is that card a popper, or is that like 3 of every matchup?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I also think that when you approach deck building in this way, it helps you also identify if the deck's even good or not. Pretty easily. If whatever your goal is to accomplish is either you accomplish the goal and it just doesn't win, then it's like maybe your goal is just not good. Like Warriors goals just don't win any games right now. Like no matter what the goal is of the Warrior deck, it's just like it's unfunctional.
Yeah, I'm gonna have the highest value every turn, and I'm gonna outvalue them on every turn cycle.
The goal is just to reset Dynamo, right?
Yeah, it's like I'm going to reset my Dynamo, and you're just like, that is not good enough to win the game. Right?
It's like all fine until you see Traverse on the other side, and it's like, oh, I'm just like 2 turns behind.
Yeah, and so I think it's also like a good way to, or a good way to understand why a deck isn't strong enough or isn't good enough as well. And it's something I've been looking at with these new hunted heroes coming out. They have in my mind, they have very powerful goals, and they're pretty well defined as far as what we've seen so far. At least the portion that we can see, you know, like with Fang wanting 3 failties.
I mean, they all have like the same
tokens out, and
right. They want to mark their opponent and then hit them.
Well, we don't know 100%. Like we could probably get bigger than that, but it seems like once they have their goal accomplished, the deck is very powerful. And it's just a question of, can you actually even because can you even get to that
we've
state?
Seen that before. That was Bright Lights. That was every hero in Bright Lights was complete this quest, then you'll be very strong. And then none of them were
just
ever
on Rosetta too, no? Like
like Rosetta as well.
Powers.
And we see those heroes, I feel like the heroes and lists that have done well have not been completing that quest and then being powerful. Because like Florian's powerful once they turn on, but it doesn't happen in every matchup consistently. And obviously Aurora doesn't have anything like
maybe it's just like a way they're designing heroes now. Like we had Rosetta heroes, then we had Yarl, and now we have Hunted. Maybe they're just going to be like everyone's going on a quest.
Well, the Mystic heroes too, right? You have to put a cheat.
The Mystic heroes too, yeah.
Well, it's always some quest. I think it's the harder the quests have been. Like I feel like Bright Lights and Hunted have seem like they have reasonably challenging. I guess we'll see. I think marking somebody's probably
we just have no idea right now.
But
yeah, we don't know yet. I'm a little suspicious because I remember the amount of times I played Hatchet Dory and couldn't even make sure my Dynamos was up every round. That was like my only quest. And now I look at this and I'm like, wait, you got to mark them? You got to create another one of these tokens or you lose all your tokens? Man, I'm nervous that like how accomplishable is this? Especially if you're playing anything with any level of disruption, right? So I'm a little suspicious, but that we will see in the next week or so.
Yeah,
but it'll be fun either way. I guarantee that the heroes will be fun to play.
I think,
and when you accomplish the thing, it'll be fun.
Yeah, I think LSS they're going to be nice to us, and they're going to make these heroes feel rewarding to play, even when like their mini game is not online. Because I feel like that's been like a pretty big gripe of the other heroes, is that like they just feel so much worse when your power's not online.
Or in some of their case, it's like it's almost irrelevant. Like Teklovas' ability is like kind of whatever. And then like you have like Verdance's hero ability is like okay. But like you want to build towards it. Like they made Ring of Roses. Like we want to build towards it and we want to have it be satisfying. But I would like to see a hero that is both satisfying to play like before and after you complete the quest, but we'll see.
We will see. It might be too strong to do that. I mean, look at Mistveil, right? Yeah, like Mistveil are those heroes. Like they're fun. They're fun to play either way, but now they're just like too strong when they complete the quest. So,
but if you had a red Mistveil, I think it's a little different, right?
Yeah,
because Mistveil being blue means you can't really brick on your way to questing.
Yeah, why did they make Chi blue, man? Like, come on.
Okay. Anything else on this before we go into the podcast questions? Nope. Okay. Galaxy asks, and before I get to that, these are questions asked by premium members of our Discord. If you'd like to be able to join the Discord, you could to ask questions, see the hero of the month. I will actually be streaming this should be released on Wednesday. So I will be streaming Wednesday in the Discord at 8 p.m. EST for my Vinset building and gameplay. If you'd like to be able to join, we're doing that all month. Galaxy asks, when preparing for an event so close to a new set's release, such as Calling Memphis, do you think it's better to try and crack the breakout deck or simply play something that is currently powerful that you already know?
Real quick, one thing about the Hero of the Month as well is if you come join and you participate in the stream, you can play against Cody this month as well.
Yes.
We actually would love for you to come in and play against stuff.
I'm testing culling, and I can't really test culling super easily without an opponent internally. So you come in, join the stream. I'll put a link in. People can join. I will be playing against them. It's a lot of fun. Okay, back to the question. Should you play the new hotness or should you play the old hotness?
Do not play the new hotness.
No, I think it's maybe play the new hotness. And it entirely depends on how much time and access to cards you have.
Yeah, it's totally.
If you have the time, it's like incredibly rewarding. If you can like...
Yeah, look at the
just get like
Enigma
a very
that
powerful deck
that
that people aren't practiced against. Like that's a huge advantage. But the smart thing to do is to play the known deck that's at the top of the tier, whatever, that you know how to play well, and just lock it in.
Yeah, I would just play. I always like to play the decks that are hard to play against at these events. Like that's what I would do. Like I would play probably like new at this event. Like I'm actually considering playing new. Just like something where like people are either going to be not testing and bringing an old deck that they like don't really know how to play, or maybe they're unpracticed with, or you bring like, or people are bringing new decks and definitely don't know how to play them. So I would just like to play the deck that asks a bunch of questions.
You're just going to be the fun police, dude. Everyone's going to try all their new stuff.
Dude, the fun police, the fun police wins callings. Michael Hamilton's name is Fun Police.
I mean, if you look at the Enigma that won that calling, like right when the set was released, a Battle Hardened, right when the set was released as well, you could see that like the opponents were blocking and then just like immediately lost the game in a lot of those matches. And I think if you can identify something like that with one of the new heroes, in which your opponent will play in a suboptimal way that they will probably never play that way again moving forward, and you can take advantage of that at the tournament, that is incredibly powerful in a way to win the event. But you also have to know how to play the deck. Like you just can't you got to put a lot of time.
Yeah,
but it could be worth it.
If you don't feel like super confident on a new deck, I would just stay away from it. Also, if you're gonna play a new deck, I don't know. It's kind of a catch-22 because like on the other hand, I feel like if you're gonna play a new deck, you should lock it in like before the set is spoiled. So then you just like kind of get boned if it's not any.
Yeah, but okay.
If you have enough time, you can get it together.
I think one thing that we haven't mentioned is super important. If you plan on playing Memphis as your only calling this year, probably don't play some crazy new deck. Like, take something that you know is going to be good.
Just play the next day. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's like the best day.
If this is your only major tournament because of like whatever life situation, you can only make it to this one, then like make it count. But if you plan on going
at this one, this is like the exact exception.
You have 2 chances to not be a moron and play a new deck. Just go 2-4 day one.
What I'm trying to say is like, if this is your only time, don't like throw it to the wind.
I think it's the opposite.
What do you mean? You think if this is your only
I think because of the format, you should like roll the dice on the crazy new hero that no one's ready for, and if it doesn't work out, whatever.
Just spend the whole year until nationals. Like, I wasted
that. The next day you get to play
you're going to play the sealed calling.
No, you're missing like the point of what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say like the weekend in general. Like
sure.
Although actually, to be fair, if you do prep for a hero for CC and it's one of the new heroes, you probably have a pretty big advantage for sealed.
I agree.
Oh, that's
like you're way more familiar with the cards.
Wait, no, but you also give yourself like a pretty big shot because like usually sealed format has like one playable hero, so you're giving yourself like a 2/3 chance to be biased towards just like a dog shit hero in sealed. Like imagine you like prep Verdance for a similar format at like the last format, and then you like are like, yeah, I'm just gonna force Verdance and sealed, and then you just like. Or like a Cilio, and you're just like sitting there like, I know how to play a Cilio better than all of you guys, and you go like 0-5 in the calling because you checked a Cilio.
Yeah, but why would that be? You should also prep for sealed.
Nobody's
you're going to play pre-release.
I'm not going to do any prep for sealed, bro. What do you
Nobody's ever prepped.
Why would I prep for sealed? I'm going to be.
You're not going to play pre-release?
Dude, pre-release isn't prepping.
Do you prep for pre-release, dude? Come on.
Dude, I play my pre-release, and that's
every game of Flesh and Blood is prep. What are you guys saying?
Yeah, no, we play the pre-release, and that's our prep.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I'm not doing like dedicated
Yoda-
prep
Yoda
before
was
the
good.
weekend.
Well, yeah. Prep is for Friday night after we scrub. We prep with who's
Yeah,
left.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, the only prep I will be doing is
The
in
goal is
in the
also for
hotel
this
Friday
event.
night.
Yeah, the goal is to not prep. Like my goal for this event is
exactly.
to not have to prep at all because I don't have to fucking play the sealed calling. Like,
Yeah,
it's gonna
I'm
set
bringing
my
one
goal.
deck box. I'm not even bringing a second deck box.
Yeah.
That'll be my shame. I have to buy a new one for
No,
my.
if
my
I
field deck.
scrub out a CC, I'll
You have
just
to
throw
leave
away
it.
my
You have to
CC
leave
deck.
the deck part in the hotel
Exactly,
room.
yeah. Your
Yeah.
CC
Just
deck
take
goes
the
in your
box with
hotel,
you.
and that's your seal deck now. You
Yeah.
de-sleeve your
exactly.
CC deck so that you can
I
sleeve
just
up.
roll the dice that the housekeeping won't steal my deck. Yeah.
Yep.
Hmm.
Okay. Millen asks, what kind of sleeves are you using?
Dragon Shield.
Katanas.
I have some thoughts on this. First thing, use sleeves where you can't see through them, because especially with like chi, and who knows in this set if we have other like mechanics where you have to you have cards like dragons or whatever where like you could see through the back. Just like have dark colored sleeves so that you can't see through them. I don't know if that's the
Mhm.
nature of this question or
Okay.
if they're just asking about a brand, but yeah, my advice is twofold: have dark sleeves on your main deck, and then I use these Dragon Shield. I have them on my desk actually. I use these Dragon Shield clear sleeves for any tokens, so that way I get like double value where I can just like flip it to the other side. And also, if I have like a Marvel hero or something, then they ask to read it. I just go, flip it. So it's very convenient. So this is my strat. I use the clear sleeves for any non main deck shuffle thing, and then I use either like navy blue or black for my main deck.
Wait, navy blue is absolutely see-through with some brands. Like Dragon Shield is absolutely
said dual
made
mat, right?
see-through. Oh, you said dual mats?
No, I use KMC.
Oh, okay.
no.
Yeah, KMC dark blue or black,
Dude,
and then I use the Dragon Shield clear.
It's the 21st century, man. What are we doing? They'll be using KMCs in the year 2025. It's crazy.
I got some really
Only
nice ones in Japan.
katanas.
They're really trash in America, but in Japan they're really good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I believe that.
I got a bunch of the anniversary dragon shields for Christmas, like the new dual mats where it's got silver lining on the inside or gold. So the silver one makes it look like Pokemon cards because now the border looks silver. So those are my sleeves for the year.
How do y'all feel about art sleeves? I'll reserve my judgment.
Okay,
I mean, I think they're just strictly correct, so you know what direction your deck is facing, but I don't like using them.
Yeah,
No.
art sleeves
Yeah,
are really
do you
good as
mean-
well because they're opaque. So like the like only real like practical things that matter outside of like sleeve quality, like what you want is you want opaque sleeves where you can see if they're damaged or marked. And it's really easy to tell when art sleeves are marked or damaged, which is a really big advantage. You don't want to be the guy who has like black sleeves and you have like a folded corner on one of your two of your fellings or whatever, but like you don't see it because like your sleeves are black and it's not easily noticeable, and then you hand it to the judge and you get DQ'd. So like if you're trying to like actually min-max tournament results, I think art sleeves are great.
I'm going to disagree, and I think Cody will too. So you can talk first, Cody.
If you're talking specifically about the FAB ones, the FAB art sleeves, I think they're unshuffleable. Like they just like do not shuffle except for the Iron.
I mean that just depends on how you
shuffle great.
That depends on how you shuffle.
Mash
Well,
shuffle.
some people like do the motion differently. Like my friends and I all shuffle the same way, but like they think some sleeves are better shuffles, and I think different sleeves are better.
Well, I mean, you could just look at it. If you pick them up,
Some
the
of them.
corners, like the sides are thicker than they typically are, and so they.
Well, that's
they
because
just
of
catch.
distribution. So most like Dragon Shield packs. I heard this. This might just be complete nonsense. But most Dragon Shield packs are 2 different packs of sleeves, and they're supposed to be the same size, but sometimes they're miscut and they get shuffled together.
Mhm.
So
I know you can because you can see the
you can
lines.
see
and the
some packs
sides
don't
in
have that
different
problem
spots.
though. Where some packs they are cut the same, and those packs of art sleeves are actually just like S++ tier sleeves. I think they're like so.
But
good.
why you want to roll the dice like that?
Or you could just buy katanas and they shuffle like
Yeah, katanas
butter
for like
katanas are the
single
best.
time.
for like
Those are just the
10
most
rounds. And then your sleeves are like
yeah, for one
just-
tournament. You only need it for one
you
tournament.
have
I don't
an
know what
allergic
the problem
reaction
is.
by the time you're in Top Cut.
No, I use it for one tournament and then I get a new box.
Oh, well, some of us over
There
here,
is something cathartic about like resleeving your deck. before
not
a tournament.
infinite money land. You know, some of us.
I just use my store credit for my locals, and I just go there and I buy like 7 or 8 boxes of sleeves with my store credit, and then I have 7 or 8 tournament sleeves.
Yeah. Okay.
But Noah, what is your
Yeah.
thought on
My
it?
beef about art sleeves is kind of what y'all were saying about how they're not all the same. And I think some of that like could be said for the art too, or maybe like you just notice because you've been like using your sleeves and looking at them, how like one of the art might be like sometimes they have art where it's like a border, there's like a white border around the thing and the artwork is in the middle, and some of them the border might be like slightly shifted to the right or left or up or down, which is like kind of imperceptible to the opponent, but if you're like looking at your cards often you may notice this. So I
Oh,
just
you're
don't like
saying
the
if they can
fact
be
that
marked in that way?
yeah, exactly. They could be marked in a way where the opponent would have no idea because it's
See.
not like there's like a fingernail
Yeah.
mark or like a bent corner. It's just
I
like
see.
the art is like shifted in one way.
Interesting. Do you?
Or like
I
maybe
would
the
guess
ink is
that.
like
I would
the
guess
ink
that.
is a little bit darker too.
Yeah.
Like
I would
it's
guess
so hard
that
to
if
tell.
they're cut the same, if it's like a good pack, that problem's not probably a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. All this is like contingent on the fact that the quality control is not as good.
Yeah.
But I think the quality control for the other sleeves is more obvious. Like you can just see one sleeve
Yeah.
is objectively larger. You don't have to worry about like the design.
Mhm.
So I'm just like not a fan of art sleeves in general.
That's fair. I think it's high risk, high reward situation buying art sleeves. If you get a good
I just
pack,
don't think it's high reward.
if you get a good pack, they're like, I love them. They're amazing.
Your Ira pack that you got at Worlds was some of the best,
Yeah.
I believe. You were shuffling it, and I was like, "You're like, dude, these shuffle so good." And you handed it to me. I'm like, "Oh, I've never."
Yeah, well, like when
seen
they're
any
good,
shuffle
they're
this good.
so nice. They're so nice.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Next question from Wardo77. What is your view of power creep in the game today? I was comparing Cryptic Crossing with Face Purgatory because they essentially accomplished the same payoff with significantly different costs. Was a card like Cryptic Crossing just a bad design at the time, or is there some element of power creep needed to bring certain classes to the forefront?
I think it's different design. It's just like you have to. I think what they've done recently, they've had a lot of trends where they design a lot differently than they used to. Like it feels like nowadays a lot of the power is in the equipment zone. And in the past, I feel like equipment was less of a big deal and it was more focused on hero abilities and weapons. And then for a while, we had a lot of design that was very powerful cards, like Everfast, Tales of Aria. That was all like very powerful cards, with like Monarch and Tales also having very powerful heroes and weapons. And then since then, we shifted for a while. We had powerful cards, and now we're kind of going up where we have a lot more powerful equipments with like Face Purgatory and every single equipment printed in Mistvale, and like all of these more recent equipments, they feel like a lot more powerful. Whereas in the past, it was kind of card was powerful. So I think with something like Face Purgatory, it's like they're just willing to make more powerful equipments than they have been in the past. At least that's my take on it. Like you look like Carrion Husk used to be like considered like the best equipment in the game. Like even if it was just like block 6, take 2 blood dead. Like it didn't even have to block an on hit. And people were just like gasping over it.
Yeah, I think with the Face Purgatory example in specific too, Cryptic Crossing, it's kind of hard to say it's power creep when like that card was printed and everyone knew it was terrible. So
Yeah.
it's like not really power creep. Like that card was like just printed underpowered.
Yeah.
But Face Purg, you could say, is like a pseudo power creep to other hats we have in the game. But I think they were good in balancing it to make it pretty restrictive in like how you have to use it. Like I would say most of the time you never are actually blocking 2 with it. Like you're blocking with 2 cards plus the Face Purg just because you want the effect. So it's in actual gameplay, I think it's more balanced than the card like reads on paper. But it's certainly better than other hats, and I think LSS is fine, just like printing some good cards.
Yeah, I actually know the person who asked this question. He's one of my students. But we were talking about this, and I was like, there's like 4 things that you have to do to like maximize Face Purg value. It's like you have to be able to block with an attack and a non-attack, which most of the time, even if you can do that, you're still probably sacrificing some value across. Like in Viscerai, like you're usually blocking with a card that's better used on offense. And then it has to block 2, and then they have to be able to like discard a card for value, and you have to be able to draw a card and like use it. And it's like it's a very powerful effect, but like it's very uncommon that all of those line up. And even when they do, it's only like reasonably better than the other hats. Like it's definitely the best hat of all of the ones that we have legal right now. Maybe not Traverse, but it's a very powerful hat. But you have to fulfill so many conditions for it to like be as broken as it looks like it is. Because like every time you like block with an attack and a non-attack for 4 and then put Face Purg in there, those cards would have been like used like 6 or 7 on offense, and they like discard a card, draw a card. It's like it's not that deep. It's that just happens so much that I don't think it's like a power creep.
I'll take this back to just power creep in general, as the topic. I will say, yeah, we have some power creep because we needed it. We like had a bunch of not power creep for a lot of sets, and no one bought the sets. And now Warmongers is $130. So I just would like to point out that this is what happens when you have no power in the sets. And then I think Heavy Hitters was like a tiny bit better than what we were used to. And then Misfail was way too much. Like it was significantly too much power creep. But it's sold. It still sells, right? And then Rosetta felt like a good level of power to me. And then we'll see how the new set goes. But yeah, I don't think we have a power creep problem. We had a power creep problem in the fact that we didn't have any power in any of the sets. And so I don't think we're at a point to be concerned yet.
The LL system also is like very clearly like kept this from being like too big of it. Like we literally see like the Mistveil heroes and the heroes that are broken from Rosetta will be gone by the end of the year. Like we see it doing its intended purpose. Although it'll be interesting how they balance that in the future, because like I said, the heroes, the Mistveil heroes may be permitting, maybe just Zen, but the problem probably is the card pool less so than the heroes themselves, with the exception of Zen and Viserai.
Well, do you have something to say, Dan?
No, not really. I just agreed.
Okay. No, I was just letting you have the floor if
I appreciate
it. Something else.
We want to let you talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you guys covered it.
Wait, no, I have one more.
Okay, go ahead.
Question. This is a Noah follow-up question. Do y'all think that they should power creep generics? Because a lot of the power creep we've been seeing has been like the class cards and stuff, but you still just like Jam, Sync, Fate, CNC, E-Strike.
You can't power creep.
Yeah, like absolutely.
You need to ban them and under creep.
Yeah,
them.
I think a ban and redo is maybe playable, but I don't want cards that are better than Sync Below. Sync Below is too good.
This has been LSS's strat, right? I don't think we've seen any generics come out that have been like power creep. Just been like.
I mean, we had like Cop over Skullcap and then like Balance over Cop, but like
Weak is Link to an extent too.
But those are just like other options. They're not power creep.
Yeah, we haven't seen.
It's not CNC that comes in for 7, right? That's
Well, it's
CNC that draws a card.
But it's not.
It's not CNC.
It's more niche effect.
You can use D-Reacts on it. Like it's just a different effect. Right?
Yeah. But power creep is like literally just a better card. Like
like they printed Skullcap and then they printed Cop, and it's like.
Well, those are also just.
Well, Skullcap is better than Cop right now.
Those are also different. Yeah, that's not power creep.
Dude, I played Skullcap this past week with Kasai, and I was like, man, this card's still good. I missed this card. Like getting that extra.
That's because you were always losing because you were playing Kasai.
Yeah. Okay. Zombie Inc. 99 asks, do you think LSS will take cards off of the CC ban list at some point? Certain bans were to rein in specific heroes with a handful of heroes in LL soonish. Do you think you could see the example of Scaletta again once Viserai Ellis?
Absolutely not.
Scaletta. Yeah. Not that example.
I checked the ban list.
It's dead forever.
I think the entire ban list, absolutely not, except for Blue CYB.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't think maybe Ball Lightning is too good? Belittle, I think, is
no shot on anything.
I think Belittle
it's too like restrictive on
maybe.
Like
on future design.
Future design and like.
I mean, there's some cards that probably don't have to be banned, but don't like have a reason to be back in. I feel like Cash In. You mentioned CYB Blue. Plunder Run, I think, is maybe fine. Some of these tomes.
Plunder Run is never fine as long as the Runeblade boots are still in play. It's too strong with Plunder Run. It
Creepers
replaces itself with Go again. Yeah, Creepers. Yeah.
Maybe. I feel like Belittle.
I don't see any way these cards get unbanned.
Yeah, most of these cards are on the ban list because they are fundamentally broken.
Like they'll just reprint something for the similar effect if they need it.
Yeah, they did that with Plunder Run. They made, I guess, pre-met's just different, but that's what it felt like.
To give an exact reason why Skeletor can never come back is Florian. It would just be the LL Florian deck in CC, and that deck is like it would just be the best deck by far, bar none. In the
I mean, Enigma would just like trash it, but
you have one matchup that you lose and you win everything else in the game.
Yeah.
Or close
No,
to it.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
it would be like Zen new meta, but if new like always beats Zen, like 100% of the time.
Yeah. Okay. Next question from Suddy asks, thoughts on Yarl's place in the meta now that we have had some time with him?
Do you think I should answer
What do you
that
think,
one?
Lucas? I think you
Okay.
should answer that one.
I was finally gonna
You
let
have to
somebody
answer
else have.
honestly.
I was finally gonna let somebody else
You gotta,
answer
like,
the
put your
question
hand,
first.
swear an oath, bro. Answer honestly.
No, it was like I was gonna let somebody else take this question, and then they were like, "How's Yarl doing?" It's like, shit. Okay, well, I guess I'll go first again. I think he's good. I think the Enigma matchup is probably bad enough that he's not worth playing at an event where you know there will be Enigma. So like I wouldn't play him at like a calling or anything like that. But I think it's pretty reasonable into a lot of other stuff. I think the new matchup is better than I initially thought, and I think you can make it a lot better with deck building. I think the Zen matchup is actually pretty good. From what I've seen so far, maybe the Zens will adapt, but I don't have faith in people to adapt ever. So I assume we'll just keep crushing them. And then I think
Isn't Viserai unplayable?
Viserai is the other
Yeah.
problem. Viserai and Enigma are like the two.
The deck's unplayable. Like you
No,
can't register that
I
deck
think
in a tournament.
I think
like
I don't know. It's
where is it in the meta? Absolute trash
it's
tier.
in this weird spot. I think it's like technically one of those like heroes that you shouldn't play, but it's like not one of the like F tier heroes. Like it's very reasonable. It beats decks, and I think you probably can beat Viserai. People, since Noah has kind of like revolutionized the way people play the deck, it's probably a lot harder. Like if people are like actually putting just like Galaxias and Blessings and D-Reacts in their deck, it's pretty miserable, I think. But if people were playing like the more like red line aggressive versions in the past that didn't have as many setup cards, I think you would actually, I actually think you're very good into those decks. But I don't know. I think it's like one of those heroes where like I have my finger on it because I'm waiting for other things to go away, whether that's out of the meta or LL'd. But I do think the deck's good. It's not like how I would say like like Kasai or whatever. Like I just don't think Kasai's good. Like it like has some matchups that are playable, but I just like don't think it's a good deck. But Yarl is a deck that does very powerful things reasonably consistently, asks your opponent a lot of questions, has good matchups, has play into the bad matchups that it has. It's just like
So it's Florian level.
I guess. I think it's very different because I think Florian's just bad. I just think that's like not a good hero. I think it's.
I think we just wait until Mastery Pack Guardian, and then we'll answer whether Yarl is playable.
No, I mean if Viserai and Enigma LL before then, and there's like an event, I would consider playing Yarl.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like something to keep in mind because like those heroes will LL soon. Whereas like Florian, I'm waiting for every playable hero to LL because that hero's bad.
If those heroes LL, I might think about playing Florian, but it'd be OTK stack Florian.
Well, that's probably not very good for
or the switchboard.
Yeah, that's probably
it's just like you've said it yourself, dude. Like the Fab community has ascended past Guardian. People can just like build their deck to like be good into Guardian.
Yeah, I think Yarl breaks that a little bit because Ice is really good. But I think if you can build him to be,
it's like fake Ice though. It's like Ice that if you're talking about Frostbite,
it's not fake. I like.
How is it not fake? Your opponent like has to do something in order for the Ice to come online.
No,
or you have to like go through a lot of hoops.
So the hoops are not that hard to go through in some games. Now it's not quite consistent enough, I think, where you can like build your deck to just be like by turn 6 they'll have an equipment gone every game. But I think there's a lot of cards where like you can just build your deck in a reasonable way to where like you're playing. It's kind of like we were talking earlier. Like this deck actually does feel satisfying to play before you've kind of turned on, and then like as soon as your Winter's Bites give them a Frostbite and they have another open zone, the game's just like done. Cool, go next. Because like the Ice is very debilitating once they have like 2 zones open. It's very easy to just like keep them out of the game for the rest of the game if you have any sort of space and you're close. The weapon's just really good at that. And Ice cards are just very good. Like I was saying earlier, like you are just pushing towards an end game where you're up. And it feels like this deck like kind of forces people to that. Whereas like Victor is like, come and get me. And then you don't come and get him. And he just like, shits and dies. Whereas this deck, like you have like a lot more that you can do. You're a lot more flexible, I think. And you can also adapt to different metas. Like you can just play like different cards. Like he just has such a wide card pool.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like talent. Like Oldhim, like I don't know. At least when he was legal, I always thought this. That hero always felt bad, but like he just won games, and that's like kind of how Yarl feels similar to that. Where it's like it doesn't feel great, but like you win the games. And I feel like the talent is a big reason for that. It's not like other Guardians. Like you're not just doing boring numbers and dying when they block with their equipment because your deck doesn't fucking do anything.
Pick me Guardian.
Stoop Kid asks, what do you think is necessary within development strategy, given that aggro decks are being churned out at a fairly easily rate, while developers seem to struggle finding a balance in more control-oriented decks to even out the playing field? I think I push back on this question a little bit in the issue of they absolutely make control decks.
Yeah, are they saying new is overtuned, or are they like undertuned control decks? That's what I'm not clear on.
I think they're saying they're struggling to find successful control decks.
Yeah, he's saying that they're...
Is that because like new is too overtuned, or are they just...
I think they're just saying it's unsuccessful.
What do we think? Okay.
Yeah, they seem to be able to make aggro decks really easily.
Yeah.
But they struggle to make control decks.
It's just because...
But I would say they make control decks, but nobody likes the way control works in FAB. Control only works one of three ways in FAB. It's I'm going to fatigue out your entire deck. That is control, because that is how control works in all games. However, all of our resources are in our hand every single round. Or it works in a way of I'm going to rip the cards straight out of your hand so that you can't play the game. And it's also fatigue, but I'm just CYB. I'm going to CYB the game, and that's how I'm going to win. People do not like any of these options.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think it's just like aggro decks are more fun to play, and they're easier to play. So like aggro decks in every game, if they're playable, will always be played more than the other decks because you just pick it up and you do it. Whether like the skills I think are often harder to learn, and those decks are not easy to play always, but they're simple. And when most of the time you don't block, it feels like a lot easier than if most of the time you're supposed to block. Like finding the block is often a skill with aggro decks, and if you're new, you just like don't have to do that.
People don't like fatigue. People don't like spectra. People don't like healing.
I mean, that's just control. Control's not fun to play.
And people don't like ripping cards out of the hand. Like those are the only versions of control that exist in this game. They've made those. They've gotten banned or every single time.
Yeah. The other thing about control too is when you're playing aggro,
new does all three.
I think. What'd you say?
I said new does all three of Cody's things.
Yeah. It's a good hero. But yeah, so the thing about aggro of why this questionnaire, that's a word for sure, is saying that LSS is printing more of them is just because that's how the game is designed. Like there's a 4 in the bottom of Wounding Bull, and then there's a 3 in the other corner. So like the game is just more tuned to being aggro than control. And the nature of the game is control as a concept in most card games is like you get to a game state where you win. But like Cody was saying, since you're drawing 4 new cards every hand, you can never actually establish control. Your opponent's never like out of the game until they're not doing that fundamental of drawing 4 cards because they have 0 cards. So like,
or because
you can't really have control unless you have a board state. Maybe they'll make like more heroes like Dromayish kind of thing. That's like control. Like you literally have a board state. You can't lose anymore. But I think, that's why it's so hard to make control, because the only real control you can have over the game comes at a point when your opponent literally can't play the game anymore.
Well, yeah. And it's for the most part, it's also like control in most games is, I mean, it's like an alternate win condition is typically how it goes around. It's like somebody wins the game outside of the way the game is intended to and designed to end. So like most decks are going to win the game the normal way. And then LSS might print some heroes or strategies that win the game another way. But like the way you win this game is you attack and you block and you reduce their life total to 0. And like, that's how most decks are going to function.
Also, in a lot of other games, sometimes control decks are also combo decks, but their combo deck is just like really late into the game.
That's CYB.
And we don't really, and that's like, I guess CYB is a good example of that. But people don't really like, we don't have those type of decks. We have some things that like are reminiscent of that, but a lot of the control decks don't have any good ways to just end the game on turn 20. Like they can't just end the game that turn.
I know a card.
They have to like keep
know a card.
I know
grinding
a
the
card that
game
has a
out, and it
20
just
on it.
goes to fatigue every
Yeah.
time.
There's a card with a 20
Yes,
on
yes,
it that can
yes.
do that, actually.
But it doesn't kill them from 40. And that's what a lot of these decks do. They just get to like turn 10, 11, 12, and they're just like, here's my kill you in one turn combo or lock the whole board forever combo. Like,
That's like,
we don't really have that currently.
I mean, that's like, I think CYB is the closest thing, right? Like playing like the 9th CYB when your opponent has 6 cards is like, or like 20 cards or whatever it is, you know?
Yeah.
But as I'm saying, it's always a
Agreed.
function of the opponent's cards. That's just like how control will always look.
Yeah.
You can't like control them while they still have cards. It's just like how FAB works. Like you see every card in your deck. So like you're always going to find, if you decide to include answers to what they're doing, you will just always draw them.
Yeah.
They may not line up, but like you'll always draw them at some point in the game. So that's like another thing control decks have to contend with, is like the aggro deck will always find their answer at some point.
Yep.
Unless
I think
They'll
that's a
find
good
it
question,
quickly as well. Like it's not, yeah. Because like it doesn't take decks like 20 turns. I guess that would be like Kano Icelander is kind of like that, where like Kano is just, but like Kano's not really a control deck, right? It's a combo deck, obviously.
because it's not doing anything in between the turns to get there. It's just
Yeah.
like trying to do the combo. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, good question. Next from Renzo, is Yarl viable if Enigma and New leaves?
Yes. New is not as big of a problem as Viserai. New is very easy to build for. I think it's a tricky matchup because you need a lot of specific cards to be good into her. But like if New is like the best deck and you're like okay into the other decks, like it's pretty easy to build a Yarl deck that's reasonable into New. Enigma and Viserai are just, you can make it better and you can play well, and I think they're both pretty winnable, but I would not take the hero to a major if both of those heroes are in the meta, and damn, those heroes are good. So it's gonna be it's probably gonna take an axe to the head to take those out. But if like Viserai is like a B plus tier deck and Enigma's LL'd or whatever, probably the reverse. But maybe I'd play Yarl, but I'd probably wait till then. But he's good at an RTN level, I think.
Okay. Inobi. Okay. Asks, what do you think of graphene? From the Hunted is going to be. I'm not saying the other word. I have no idea how to pronounce that.
It's the like dagger they spoiled for the Chaos Arachne, right?
Oh, Graphene
No,
Chalice.
So that was mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the
It was
token.
mentioned on something.
Yeah, it's
I think number 4
Yeah.
makes this token.
Yeah,
And
I'm pulling
they
it up.
specify on the Arachne form. Was that right? Is it number 4?
I'm pulling it up.
Okay.
It is. Oh god, man, this is.
Wow. Really
Yeah,
building
okay.
the suspense.
Yeah, it's once per turn, discard a card, equip a Graphene
Okay.
Chalicerate token. Your next attack with stealth this turn gets +3, and then at the beginning you return it to the brood. So I don't know. I don't know how to answer the question.
We're guessing what it
It was
does.
number 3. Okay.
Yeah. What do you think
Oh,
it does?
I think it
And-
marks.
Or what would you like?
Oh,
Oh,
it
it's
does?
it's 3 by the way. No, sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, it's 3. Thank you. This is the more important.
So we-
thing.
we
It
have
makes
to
sense
mark
because all the cards are carrying about +3. So yeah, of course it had to be number 3. That's the most interesting.
Yeah.
I think because it says equip, my thinking is that it'll go to some open zone.
Well, it can
So,
also it can just go to the weapon. The weapon kills itself.
That's what I'm trying to say. But you'll have had to like have the weapon
Yeah.
seppuku first.
Yeah, my guess is that it just, if I were to guess like today, I would say it's like a token that says at the start of your turn, destroy this and return a dagger. That would be my guess.
Get back the dagger from the graveyard. Or something.
Yeah, is that like 1 out of 6 times you roll into this and then you get your dagger back?
But did you see the first line of text that it costs you 1 less to activate? So clearly it has.
Isn't
to be
it just
some kind of
another
activated
dagger?
ability.
It could also just be another
Isn't
dagger. That's the other thing.
Isn't it just another? I don't know what you guys talk. Isn't it just another
It could
dagger
be.
called this?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a dagger.
Yeah. It's a
Well,
dagger.
what does it do?
It might.
Yeah, we don't know what the dagger does.
Pay 2 to attack for 1. Go again.
I think it's just a stealth dagger.
Yeah, because the
Does
thing is,
stealth
it's
on it?
like it's very specific, like, and it's not broken. Because if it was broken, then it would. I guess it could be broken. It could be like worth a card ish. It could be like you're expected to get like 3-ish value over the course of the game. My guess is that it's like a good dagger, but it's not like game warping. It's just like better. I also think it would be cool if we got 2 token daggers in this set, and you start with one of each in limited. Like one of them has stealth, and one of them is the other one that marks.
I think it would be strange if this was the only card, the Arachne Orb Weaver, that made
I agree.
these graphene guys. Like, they're not going to make you be like, okay, you only have to make this token if you specifically transform to this guy. Like, come on.
That's fair.
Yeah,
There's
it's just a
surely other
dagger.
ways of making it.
That's fair. That could be like their whole thing, I guess, is they just like have a bunch of cards that do that. That's like why they're daggers, is they just like they kill their daggers and then they replace them with better daggers.
Well, they
What if
replace
they
them
have like
with-
6 better daggers and they have like cards that make all the new?
You think this card's going to be? You think this dagger will be better than the default one?
Yeah, surely, right?
No, I'm
But
coming on board with being worse.
Well, no,
I think it's- I think
I think
Sure.
it's just like pay 2, attack for 1, go again, and then break it.
No, surely not, because because all of the other Arachnes, their like ability is discard a thing, get +3, and then get like
So is this.
2 to 3 cards worth of an effect.
But so is
Or,
this.
sorry, 2 to 3 points worth of an effect, like banish a card or like give your daggers +1 or whatever it is. But I feel like this is like a good dagger, because like
But
a
this is also
shitty,
giving
a
you an
shitty
extra
dagger
attack
that
plus
dies
3.
immediately is not nearly as good as like any of the other Arachnes. Like surely it's like a good dagger, even if it might die after like 2 activations or whatever. But like surely it's good.
You know, it'd be cool if they made it like on hit, you could like spawn another one, so you could just like infinitely like keep attacking with them for 1, or your opponent has to block it. That'd be sick.
Okay, Mr. Ark asks, do you think Dio's in a similar spot to where Zen was after the Art of War ban? Not quite the secret best deck, but at least significantly underrepresented based on her remaining power level. No. My answer is absolutely not. Not even close.
I don't
Yeah.
think so either.
The deck cannot beat Fatigue currently, so you just lose.
Well, the other problem I think that it has is like, or like comparing the two is like, Zen is like, we originally played it for one reason, and then it died, and then we started playing it for a completely different reason. But like Dio is like, we played it for this reason, and then it died, and like now we're just kind of doing that but worse. Whereas like Zen, it was like you were this like Art of War, just kill him in 2 turns deck, and then you also have the Zen state token for this certain meta. So like that's why we played Zen, and then turned out that he was just overtuned in general.
Yeah, Zen got bad in a lot of ways because other decks got bans too, right?
Yeah.
Or this was just like we had the format and then Hacking got banned, and now it's just worse.
It's also I think different because like Zen is like, it didn't just get Art of War banned, like it also got Bonds banned. Like it literally was a deck, and now it's a different deck. Like it's not the same archetype, it's not the same hero. You don't play it the same even remotely. Whereas like Dio is like, I don't know. I guess maybe High Octane was an archetype, so maybe there's a Dio archetype that doesn't need High Octane and is very good. But I feel like we would have known that by now, because it's been out for so long. Like Zen had been out for a format, it was broken, we played the broken thing, and then next format we were like, well, it's still broken even if we're doing the second most broken thing. But we've had Dio for a year. Like
Even with the new cards, a lot of those big turns required High Octane in order to beat just like
yeah, you just can't be the
any
same
random deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, any random deck putting cards in front of it is just too strong currently in its current state. So it needs to evolve into something else.
Yeah, and I just don't think it's motivating as an archetype enough for good people to work on it and like refine it a lot. Maybe
Yeah, I mean,
it's-
you saw how broken the deck was and how low its adoption rate was at Worlds. Just naturally, like boost decks that need specific cards to be drawn and not boosted is like, already it's just like boost aggro is just like not a very appealing archetype to most people, I feel. Like at least with High Octane, you
Which
had
is-
like some sense of like you could pretend to yourself that you were doing something consistently, but like now you're just like, unless your game plan is just play every boost card and somehow that beats your opponent, like I don't really know.
I hate boost, but I love shackles.
Yeah.
These things are completely different. Like even when I shackle my Art of Wars, I'm just like,
Well, yeah, because
Yeah,
Shackle is
like,
drawing
it's
cards
like,
and
I don't
boost
care.
is lose
Yeah.
all of your
Yeah.
washes.
but when I
Cards
boost
only
anything,
get-
I go, oh, I boosted it. Oh, I boosted that one. I just like, it hurts me in my soul every
Well, it's
time.
because you don't have the upside. Like you're never like boosting
Yeah.
and being like, oh, I drew a card. Like,
Yeah.
There's like a couple cards that carry.
Except for sometimes you boost Fast and Furious when
And
you
then you
have
do
the
draw.
Cerebellum on board, and then you do draw a card. But
Yeah.
you know,
And then I'm sad that my Fast and Furious is in my Banish Zone, not my
That's fair.
hand, because that thing's a great card. You're just like, I need more 0 for force.
You need to play more Max, Cody.
No, I
Boost
hate-
your Berthas and
so
your
I don't-
crankshafts. That feels good.
And then draw your Berthas and your crankshafts.
I think
It's
that
just
might
like
help
chain.
solve this
It's
card.
just like drawing founding.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Okay, Codfather asks, can you talk about the deck and a gameplay review benefits of the Majestic tier in a bit more detail? Yeah, for our Majestic tier, which is the $25 tier, once a month, anyone on that tier gets to submit a VOD and deck list that they'd like to have reviewed. They get to do that every single month. And then typically whoever is best equipped for that VOD review, or in multiple cases, multiple people on the team will do reviews of the same VOD. I know I personally always open up the video, record myself watching the video, and then talking through a bunch of plays and a bunch of decisions and game plans that are going on in that VOD every time that I review it. And the deck lists are more just tuning things or expressing things that we like that the deck does, or maybe giving some sideboard advice
Yeah,
as well.
my best way to explain the Majestic tier is you get to have access to what we do for each other. We just do it for you. Like, that's been my experience. Like, every time I've been asked to do something for Majestic, like anytime anybody asks a question or anything, I just answer it like it was a teammate, or I just like go over the game like I was going over a teammate's game. I'm critical but fair and honest, and sometimes I'm wrong and I discuss it, but yeah, that's
Yeah, it's kind of just like a non-live coaching session that you get once a month. Like,
yeah.
you post your thing, we give you coaching feedback, and it's in Discord. It's like we'll go back and forth for a while. You're not just like one response and you're cut off. The intent is to like help you prepare your list for your next event, or
Yeah,
improve at playing a deck based on the gameplay you give us, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like
It's
it's
much
like
easier
not
to
quite
do
as in depth as 101, but it's like you get more different opinions, which is nice.
yeah, it's just much easier to see the context when you're able to reference like a timestamp of, okay, this happened at this time. You don't have to like explain back 19 years of history.
There's also the secret benefit of you get to see everyone else's VOD review as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So like, which I think is actually
Yeah, you get to get
a pretty
everybody's
cool
information.
advantage. Yep. Cool. I think that is it for us today. I'm going to go play some Marvel Rivals. So see you guys later. Goodbye.
Yeah, we're getting rid of the envelope
Seven
here, but
Envelope
What we could do
in
here is go ahead
darkness.
and play the envelope.
All three pitches of Envelope and Darkness.